All right, good Tuesday evening, Village Tech. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Give people an opportunity to log on this evening on September 29th, 2020. Ben's telling me we are live and running. Notice the chat in the side there that you can utilize. We'll be collecting questions to answer throughout the week, so feel free to use the chat. Ben and I are collectively grieving the Stanley Cup loss of our beloved Dallas Stars. They gave us something to cheer for, but came up short in Game 6. Again, welcome. It's a little early. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. All right. I'm a little bit far from the TV screen I'm looking at, so Ben's keeping track of the chat. I can see that there are chats coming in. And actually, I feel like I think I said this last time, I feel like I'm at the eye doctor. I think I see a hi David in there. So good to see you too, Mr. Eden. Always a pleasure. And a few other folks coming online here. Again, it's 6:30. We will start in just a moment. Give people a chance to log in. If they have any issues with the link, internet connections, give them just a second to get going. All right, again, just another few moments here, and then we will start with our town hall. All right, well, here we are. My name is David Williams. I'm the Superintendent of Village Tech Schools. It's great to have everyone joining for this Tuesday evening in our second virtual town hall during our opening VT virtual tour in the 2020-2021 school year. As just a reminder for everyone, for those folks who are not able to join for this evening, you'll be watching this as a recording. This will be made available for everyone after the town hall. It's almost instantaneously available, and you can get the information there. Additionally, the information will be posted to our website, and I'll actually show that in the presentation this evening. So first and foremost, as we get going here, I just want to give a huge thank you to all of our parents and our students and our teachers and our staff. I'm not going to use the word that we used all throughout the spring, but this has been quite the exceptional year for all of us. And I just want to thank our parents for continuing to be diligent and being partners in your child's education at home, working through all of the different challenges, different information. I know we have all been trying to find those answers. And then our students who are showing up online, coming ready to learn, working through the online environment, connecting with their teachers, connecting with one another, doing their part to make the virtual learning experience a success. I appreciate seeing that engagement and reaching out to new squids. And then, of course, our teachers and staff from all across the board, whatever it may be, from working in the back office of figuring out how to live in a virtual organization, to folks on the front lines, to all of the data, to our teachers who are working extra hours to make sure and connect with students. I am very grateful and appreciative of all the work that people have done because it's not like this hasn't been just a little bit stressful for all of us. This has been quite the 7 months. In fact, I checked today and it has been 200 days since March 13th. March 13th was the last Friday we were in school all together. And as of today, September 29th, it's been 200 days. I almost can't believe it, frankly. But I want to start with this before we get into our agenda. You may be wondering, who has really been the culprit for this extended quarantine? I finally think I figured it out. Some say, because this has gotten to be a very political situation, some say this is the fault of the Democrats. Others say this is the fault of the Republicans. Others say this is the fault of Dr. Fauci. And then others, of course, blame TikTok for just about everything. But really, it's something else that's going on here. I don't know how many of you are familiar. If you're new families, maybe you've had the opportunity in the past to attend a VT theater production. We have an incredibly talented group of students who create these student-led productions. They've done all types of different performances. And one of the things that they had the opportunity to do this past year prior to the quarantine is really hone their skills as method actors. And I'm not a drama expert or a theater expert, but my understanding of this is that method actors and actresses, they really put themselves into the part. They really want to understand what it is to be that character. I finally found the culprit for this extended quarantine, and that is our postponed Little Mermaid production. Now think about it for a second. What is one of the premier songs and cover songs for Little Mermaid that Ariel sings to all of us? This is the culprit. I want to be where the people are. There it is. I have finally figured it out. It is the VT theater production that has been postponed. Little Mermaid, that is in fact the real reason for our extended quarantine, because we have students who are just trying to get into their method acting. Okay, jokes aside, whatever the reasons may be, here we find ourselves at a new transition. And we are ready to embark on the VT reunion. We've been working overtime to get to this point where we can bring back students in our VT reunion. And tonight's conversation is going to be about a few different things. At a high level, we're talking about our safety plan and what it looks like to return to school on Monday, October 5th. So we're going to go through a few different things. We're going to go through a risk level indicator. We're going to show where on the website to find information. Hopefully you already know this location, but this is where we'll continue to post updates for the back to school and return. We're going to talk about the 3 different phases of safety, from prevention to mitigation to response. We're going to talk briefly about the online and in-person split, as well as just a brief drop-off and pickup reminder. And then I'll indicate what the next communication pieces are, because there is more information that's going to be coming out this week that is not included in tonight's presentation, and then go through some frequently asked questions. We'll be collecting the questions from the chat, so be sure that if you do have questions that are listed there, that way we can gather those, and then we'll post answers, or those will be answered through some of the communication pieces that will go out between now and Monday, October 5th. All right, so I'm going to switch over to the presentation here. And you can see this document that will be posted on the VT website. And this is based on the current CDC Core Indicators and thresholds. This is our risk, school transmission risk level as of right now. It was updated Monday at noon. It will be updated weekly. Last week, we were actually at the moderate risk level. This week, we've tipped into the higher risk level. Again, this is based on the current CDC Core Indicators and thresholds. This is not simply data that VT is utilizing on its own accord. And I want to show you where this comes from. The Dallas County data, the two core indicators for the CDC, is the number of new cases per 100,000 persons on a 14-day rolling average. And if you'll notice all the way to the right, that number is in green, and that's 16. And then the second core indicator is the percentage of positive COVID tests in the community right now. So that means of people that get tested for COVID-19, what percentage of those tests are coming back positive? That number is 11.9. You'll see that that number is red. So when we look at the core indicator guidance in a little more detail, we can see that when the number of new cases per 100,000 people within the last 14 days is less than 5, that's the lowest risk of transmission in schools. When it's greater than 200, that's the highest risk of transmission in schools, and then you can see the breakdown in between. The percentage of tests that are COVID positive during the last 14 days, the lowest risk of transmission is less than 3. The highest risk of transmission is when it's greater than 10%. So if we go back for just a moment, you can see that our number of new cases is 16 per 100,000. That puts us squarely in the lower risk of transmission in schools. And then additionally, if we go back, we'll see that the 11% of positive tests puts us in the highest risk of transmissions in schools per the CDC Core Indicator guidelines, bringing those together, putting us and tipping us into the higher risk. So as we've developed these plans, we followed TEA guidelines, CDC guidelines, health authorities, as well as working with local health organizations on best practices. What have other essential businesses, particularly healthcare facilities, been doing since they have not closed throughout the quarantine and sheltering in place and throughout COVID-19? They've had to remain open. So what lessons have they learned? We've worked to implement that into our plan. And this reminds me a little bit, if anybody's been to the beach and you see the flags that are on the beach, and those flags indicate what the current is doing. So the certain colors indicate that the current is unsafe. You need to take certain precautions. Other colors indicate that the current is a much safer current, but there are still just natural precautions to take when being in the ocean. In the same way, even at the lowest risk, we still want to employ certain precautions to maintain a safe community. And at the highest risk, then that's when we have more precautions and certain restrictions that will be in place. And you'll see some of those procedures online as well. Okay? Again, I've said this throughout this process. There is not a guarantee of safety in this work that we're doing. We're following the best guidelines. We're following what has been provided. We're putting these practices and procedures in place. But there are two factors that we cannot control for. One is it's a virus, and we cannot dictate to the virus where and how and when it will spread. We can only follow best practice in order to slow or reduce, or to some extent, and hopefully to the greatest extent possible, eliminate that spread within our school community. The other factor is human behavior. While we can set expectations, we can have behavior practices in place, we are all human. And we all grow weary of this experience that we're in. And our students, I know that they are up for the challenge. I know that they are up for embracing this with a smile, that coming to school will be an experience that is filled with joy and learning and opportunities to connect, but it's going to look different and it's going to feel a little bit different. And so at the same time, human behavior is a little different. The other thing within human behavior that we cannot control is that we don't know what people are doing throughout the week. So while we may have certain precautions in place, each family has their own choices in what their comfort level is in regards to COVID-19. We also draw students from a wide geographic area. And so some areas might have a greater degree of transmission than local areas, or a lesser degree of transmission. So someone might come to school sick. And what we need to be prepared for is what we do in the event of that and in the event that we have the knowledge of that. Because as we know, especially with children, a number of the cases are asymptomatic. So again, today is about what is our high-level safety plan and looking at that, and then obviously our excitement for seeing students in person and continuing to work with them online in the virtual environment. So where to find information? This is a screenshot of our homepage. As you look at this, note where you go to school, and then as that drop-down comes down under the 2020-2021 school year, this is where you'll find this presentation, updates, information that's going to be communicated. Also, you'll have emails throughout this week, as well as our Friday update that will have key information for Monday as well. All right, so now I'm going to shift into talking through the 3 different phases for our COVID safety protocols. The first phase is prevention. In the prevention phase, students, staff, and visitors includes parents, as well as others that may join us on our campus. Prevention is all about what can we do to keep the virus out of our school community. And again, these are common sense approaches. These are approaches that are best practice and best recommendations. This isn't about creating a culture of fear around the virus. While people are welcome to their own opinions, this is about creating confidence in the work that we're trying to do together with our students and with our families. And then it's about options. Because families that don't have a comfort level with the current state of affairs are welcome to continue in the online option. So both work equally well. But in the prevention phase, it's all about communication and self-screening across the board from students, staff, and visitors. So we'll be implementing a screener app called Cleared for School. And in this screener app, there will be a series of simple questions about symptoms, and parents will have to work with their students to go through that, and it's an attestation, it's an honest statement of these are the symptoms that I'm experiencing. A certain combination of symptoms will result in a not cleared, and that student will need to remain home for that day. Now, thankfully, with our online learning, students can continue to learn online, especially if they're not feeling too terrible at the time. They can continue to learn and not have to miss that day of instruction. So they'll do the screening with the Cleared for School, as will staff, and then visitors that arrive on campus will do that as well. We have various signs around the school for reinforcing safe behaviors, and then obviously communicating with our school community what's going on. Additionally, we have an incredible opportunity through Purple Heart's Primary Care. They have offered to do periodic COVID screenings for us as a benefit to our school community. So right now, from 5 to 7 each night this week, Monday through Thursday, families are able to come through our parking lot and get a free COVID test. Results are available approximately within 48 hours. And then you'll have a little bit of peace of mind. The places around the world that are having the most success reopening schools, maintaining open businesses and schools, have certain things in place. In fact, I want to go back for just a second and touch on all of those briefly before I continue. If you'll notice, oh, no, I was mistaken. I took that slide out. But those things, as we get into them, are in the mitigation efforts. But it's about masks. It's about maintaining social distancing to the extent possible. It's about proper hygiene in terms of hand sanitizing and washing hands. It's about increased cleaning procedures, and then contact tracing. So the ability to maintain smaller groups of people and then know if we have positive cases or not. Other countries are seeing great success with this approach. And while we do not have any control over a larger scale of how different localities and state and national governments approach this, these are the things that we can do within our Village Tech community to do our best to ensure safety for all of us. So across the board, that's the primary prevention method. Lunches will be eaten in classrooms. So during this time, we are not able to have parents during our lunch. And then classroom visits will need to be scheduled, as well as the screening being cleared. But we'll have different signs around campus as well. So here's the symptom checker that you might find in a classroom. Additionally, we all know that one symptom that's not on here that would be included, that is a telltale sign for all of us, would be a loss of taste or smell. But this would be something that teachers are able to check. And similar to when the students have the flu, the bottom line for this is please do not send your child to school sick. And the same way for our faculty and staff to not come to work sick. Not only do we have the flexibility, not the same flexibility, but the flexibility of the online option, it is simply something that we don't need to do right now. So don't send your students to school sick. That did remind me, I want to take a moment on that. For those parents that are wondering, like, why not sooner? My response to those emails and those conversations has been, at this time, it's been about preparedness. So there hasn't been an underlying fear of moving into this next phase. It's been about making sure that we can be prepared for accepting students and having them learning on campus. For those parents that are more concerned and are wondering, like, why can't we extend this further? The Texas Education Agency has made it clear that in this area of Texas, that 8 weeks is the maximum amount of time that we can continue in a virtual environment. Next week will mark week 7, which will be a transition week, which we'll talk about. And then the next week, where we have all of our in-person students back, will be week 8. So it is time for us to begin moving in this phase. And so that's where we are in the process. So here's a sample. This is from our gallery. This picture was actually taken today. And this shows what the signage looks like. It's just a simple reminder to keep right, to keep distance, to wash your hands. It's clear, it's clean, it's not overbearing, but it sends an obvious message. And then also we have hand sanitizer with foot pump stations, so they don't have to be touched. Those are throughout the campus and various buildings throughout the campus. So there's hand sanitizer available as well as signage. So this is part of prevention for us. Again, going back to, it's a symptom-based approach, and it's students ensuring that they are not coming to school sick, faculty and staff ensuring they're not coming to school sick. And there may be a question out there that's not actually in the frequently asked questions, but one that I've heard a few times: what about temperature checks? Really, best practice shows that the spot temperature checks are not effective in reducing the spread. And so, we all know, we as parents have probably, I'm not going to say one way or another, but as parents, some of us have probably at some point used ibuprofen as a way to keep our students in school for a little bit. Don't do that with this. Again, they have an online option. They need to stay home. So the temperature check is something that doesn't necessarily catch the case. If the student isn't feeling well, then they need to go home. We need to be on the lookout for students who aren't feeling well and allow that to be the guide for us, and then maintaining these different mitigation strategies. So on that note, moving into mitigation, this is what happens on campus. Those are those 5 methods that I talked about. So the first one is about masks. We know with some degree of certainty that when 2 people are wearing 2-layer masks, that these are effective at reducing viral transmission. This is common practice in hospitals throughout the country and with people who are caring for COVID-positive patients, and it does make a difference. Again, it's not a guarantee, but it does make a difference and an impact. So for students, as per TEA guidelines, it's a 2-layer cotton or surgical mask, face shield that's required. Grades 4 through 12, it is required, except for when eating or when outside and distanced. For grades pre-K through 3, it's masks only when moving about campus in transition. So PE, restrooms, moving around the classroom. And also, we do have, with our pre-K7 classes, much of that movement occurs outside. So that will be an opportunity for students to be socially distanced and get a break from the mask if they've been wearing it at some time. But pre-K through 3, masks only when moving about, and 4 through 12 are required throughout the day. Training on proper hygiene procedures and behaviors, simple reminders to wash your hands, use hand sanitizer. Additionally, to the extent possible, arranging our rooms for social distancing. Now, obviously, we've talked about this before. As more students are enrolling in person, that reduces our ability to socially distance in the classroom. As of right now, we're at about 50-50. Approximately 50% of our families are selecting in person, and approximately 50% of our families are selecting online. For the most part, that puts our classrooms anywhere from 12 to 16 students. At 12 students in our classrooms with the furniture that is currently in there, it is very feasible to keep students 6 feet apart throughout most of the school day. Obviously, transitions, there will be times when students will come in closer contact with one another, but that's why the masks are part of the procedure. So again, this is more about awareness of social distancing, awareness of where we are in proximity, and just good guidance to follow. And so as student numbers increase in the classroom, it does need to be made clear that we will have more students in class, and therefore less social distancing will be able to take place. Additionally, students are going to remain in cohorts and squads, so smaller groups of students that have limited interaction with other groups, especially in close quarters and close proximity. This allows for reduced viral transmission as well as effective contact tracing. So we're, generally, I think this is one shift. While it's the adults that are smiling, it's the students that are bringing their energy and joy, it's the great learning activities. Those things are going to continue in this environment. We're going to continue to work with one another. However, we will not have as much movement about the campus. Now, as that transmission risk diminishes, then we might be able to see more movement throughout the campus. But as of right now, we're still in the higher and nearer to the highest risk. Now, thankfully, part of the CDC indicators says that by implementing all 5 of these, we are pushing ourselves towards the lower risk end. So doing the best with what we can with that. And then school supplies will remain with the student. So not a large sharing of supplies. Obviously, there are places where there are shared materials, and those places will receive additional cleanings throughout the day. So for staff, again, masks are required, sanitizer and hand washing throughout the day, social distancing recommended, and we will have additional custodial procedures. There's an electrostatic cleaning process that essentially is it works almost on contact and dries very quickly. We'll do that throughout the day and then in the evening as well. And then particularly in spaces that might be used, for example, computer labs. Those are the only spaces where that type of work can take place, and so there will need to be additional cleaning. But I think, and then visitors, masks, entry at our main tower entrance, taking the screening, and then by appointment to the extent possible. We recognize that that's not possible 100% of the time, but we want parents to call ahead to make appointments. That will help all of us with this process and give all of us time to adjust. It's kind of like moving to this online learning environment. As an educator, I was talking to a group of teachers last week. Something that was very important to me as a teacher was making use of every minute of class. I had an incredible principal who taught me that the cardinal sin of teaching is wasting instructional time. And so it was very important to me that I make use of every moment. Well, one of the challenges with online instruction is you're getting used to it. And in that getting used to it, you're re-gauging these transitions and how long these transitions might take. In the same way, I think I'm going to ask for continued patience and grace for all of us, for all as parents, as teachers, as students, all of us continuing to bring kindness towards one another in this season, because things that may have been very quick and easy 6 months ago, well, now 8 months ago, are not necessarily as easy today. We've got some new procedures in place. It might take a moment. So the more lead time that we can all have and the more grace we can give each other, the better. We're all living on the same spinning ball here, and we've all been under different pressures throughout this time. And I think too, another key piece to mitigation is it takes, while we have a collective community response to this and we have these different measures in place, it takes a level of individual responsibility. And it doesn't matter how young our children are. Our children can rise to the occasion. to take responsibility. This is part of what it means to be a leader of your own learning. Part of what it means to be a leader of yourself is to rise to the occasion, to know, and obviously the younger you are, it takes more prompting, more training, more modeling, but to know to wash your hands, to use hand sanitizer, to practice these types of things. This is all part of the process for this. So we know that our students can step up to this and make this a non-issue. It's similar to our ability to have a dress code that's based on modesty, respect, and safety. Students learn when it's appropriate to dress in the way they need to dress. They don't get it right 100% of the time, but that's why they're in school. That's why they're children. That's why we're teaching them. That's what we're here to do, is train them up for the next phase of life. And the same way, it's going to take a little bit of getting used to, but students are adaptable. And I think, frankly, after 7 months, the students that are in person are just going to be excited to be around people. As Ariel reminds us, she just wants to be where the people are. So I know that our students can rise to the occasion and do this well. And so then what happens with the last component? So let's say that we do have a confirmed positive case on our campus. Well, depending on how that information is brought. So for example, maybe we have someone that is sick. It's identified that they're sick. They end up having to go to the nurse's office. They're then sent home. Communication will go out to Village Tech students, parents, and staff. And any people that were, and that should read contact. I had a typo there instead of contract. Should read contact tracing occurs, meaning who were they in close proximity to during that day that would need to be notified. We're obviously obligated to notify the local health authority. They will conduct their own thorough version of contact tracing. Ours is what we can provide with the information we have, and notification to those that are in close contact. And then cleaning will have already occurred before the next day of school, by the time we're aware that the case is positive because of the lead time on testing. So again, those are the 3 levels of our response. So prevention, mitigation, and then our response. So that's the overview on the safety. I want to shift gears for just a minute and talk about, again, just at a very brief level, kind of online and in person, and then drop off and pick up, and then the next communication reminders, and then finally our frequently asked questions. So when we look at our in-person and online schedule, for pre-K 5, okay, students who are in person will participate in the normal school schedule. This is true for pre-K through 12. So we have schedules that are set and have been designed and devised for our school experience this year, and those in-person students will follow that schedule. Now, they may, in pre-K through 5, they may be working with different teachers than they've been working with, especially in those younger grades, throughout the day. Because some of our teachers are going to be working in the online school primarily. So for those students that are choosing to remain virtual, the online schedule at pre-K 5 remains the same. Students will have the same homeroom teacher, but again, their day-to-day interactions will be with the online grade level teacher. Okay, so our teachers work in teams, they work in grade levels. I know in pre-K through 2, they are what's called self-contained, so the students primarily work with the same teacher throughout the year, but as part of this village, community, and campus that we are, even our younger students interact with adults from various grade levels, especially within their own grade level. So students who are both in person and online with pre-K 5, may get some different faces as they continue forward after October 5th. Same homeroom teacher. Obviously, some schedules can change a little bit at grading periods, but for the most part, it's the same homeroom teacher. And then they'll interact with other teachers throughout the day. So again, one more time, students who are in person will participate in the normal schedule. Students who are online will participate in the same online schedule that we've had that you can find at the VT virtual tour. Students will have the same homeroom teacher, but their day-to-day interactions will be with various teachers throughout the grade level. 6-12, it looks a little bit different. Now, students who are in person, again, will participate in the normal school schedule. But our virtual students will receive a new online schedule, as each teacher will now have an online section throughout the day. Okay, whereas currently teachers have had certain office hours and certain times that it's available. Those times are very similar to what is in the current schedule, but without going into depth about how the high school schedule just works and middle school schedule works just a little bit differently. Essentially what we've done is create an in-person or an online block of time for students, and that's where that teacher will be available. So for example, if I'm a ninth grader, I might have English online as my first block, and then I might have geometry online as my English and geography, and then I might have geometry as my second block, and then I might have biology and art as my third, and then I might have graphic design as my fourth. And so we have those different rotations throughout the day, and so that would be, as an online student, that would be what I would follow. I would go to those courses. There will be components that will still be recorded, and we are continuing with an asynchronous attendance schedule. That means that students' attendance is based on their learning and the work that they are contributing each day. And it has to be by day, not for an entire week. This is to account for, we know that there are times when internet goes out. We know that there are times where there is something at home that just prevents that time from working for that student. But I do want to reiterate and reinforce that the most optimal time for learning is when learning is happening. So when teachers are available live in those schedules, when the schedule has it built in for something to occur, that's the best time for the student to be online, interacting in those environments so that they can keep pace throughout the online experience. Once you get behind throughout the day, it can be difficult. Again, I know that we all have different circumstances, and as families, we're making the best decisions we can. But for those that are able, especially with our older students, because we all know there's lots of reasons to sleep in, there's lots of reasons to say, oh, I can do this later. We really want to encourage them to stay connected through that schedule that's happening online. Okay, so that's a brief overview of the in-person and online schedule. And then drop-off and pickup. This is just a reminder of what our drop-off and pickup times are. We will have communication on this. I'll talk about it in a moment. But for pre-K-5, there are new times this year, right, because of our Monday through Thursday schedule, our 4-day-a-week schedule. No longer a half-day Wednesday instead of full-day Friday. And pre-K-5 arrival is between 7:45 and 8 a.m. These first 2 weeks we'll be adjusting and getting these things in place. So obviously a little bit of grace in that for all of us. And then I'll talk also about the VT return week schedule that will be coming out. But 7:45 to 8 a.m. is the drop-off time. And then for 6 through 12, 8 a.m. to 8:15 a.m. is the drop-off time. The pickup times for pre-K-5 are 4:30 to 4:45. And then 4:45 to 5 for 6 through 12. These are extended school days to meet the minutes requirement and also provide the opportunity for our students to do the work and learning they want to, and to create this Friday experience both for family, students, and our teachers to have an opportunity to recharge and an opportunity to train and grow and have professional development. So for new and returning parents, this is a reminder. Please do not arrive early for either drop-off or pickup. Once we get this system in place, it moves very smoothly. At the beginning, it does not move smoothly. It takes time to get the driveline tags in place, to get used to the system, to get used to the cars, to get used to who's picking up, which student goes where. It just takes a moment for all of that to iron out. But for those new parents, talk to a veteran VT parent. They can tell you that after a little bit of time, this slow pickup's slower than drop-off gets quicker, faster. This slow pickup very much speeds up. And one of the things that enables it to speed up is parents are arriving consistently throughout the pickup time, as opposed to having a large stack in queue of cars that we then have to clear. Now, one of the things that's going to be as someone who was a long-standing Driveline member, one thing that's going to be exciting is with the smaller number of students coming in person, the fewer number of cars that will be coming through. So it will be a little faster than even once we're all back in person. But again, please don't arrive early for either drop-off or pickup. Before and aftercare services will not be available next week. They'll be available beginning October 12th. We'll provide more information on that as well. So that's just a high-level overview of drop-off and pickup. I'll talk a little bit more about the next steps now. So items 1 through 3 on this slide will be communicated tomorrow. So if you're wondering, like, does my student come on Monday and Tuesday, or does my student come on Wednesday and Thursday? That information will be communicated via email tomorrow. If you, for some reason, you're not getting VT emails or it's going to spam, please be sure to contact us. You can call our front office. You can also email our student service assistants and get that information from them. Make sure that your line of communication with Village Tech is wide open. But you'll find out tomorrow whether it's if you're in the Monday-Tuesday group or if you're in the Wednesday-Thursday group. We are working, obviously, to keep families together. So it will be students across all grades, pre-K through 12. So if you're thinking, well, is it just going to be my kindergartner that's coming back? No, if your family has selected in person, then if you're the Monday, Tuesday, we're working so that your family comes back Monday, Tuesday. And then Wednesday, Thursday, they'll be virtual. Okay, again, I don't think I've said that yet. Let me say that again. Next week, we're on October 5th and 6th, we're bringing back half of the in-person students. That half will come Monday, Tuesday in person, and then on Wednesday, Thursday, they'll be virtual. And then the second group will come on Wednesday, Thursday in person, but will be online at home Monday, Tuesday. This is so that we can get essentially a first week of school experience with reduced numbers, learn what we don't know yet without students being here, and then come back on the 12th and be really ready to be in the full in-person experience. Obviously, there will still be some things we're working out, like drop-off and pickup, because we'll have double the cars on October 12th than we did on the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, but we'll be working on that. Additionally, you'll get information about driveline tags, how to get those, what you need. For those of you that are new to Village Tech, we have a particular system for dismissal. Your number is given a tag, or your car is given a tag that you hang from the mirror that has a number on it. What happens when you drive through the line, we punch that number in. That is then communicated to the classroom, so the student is ready for you at your car. Again, that's how it works in theory. At first, it takes a minute to make sure the numbers match. It takes a minute for the student to be paying attention and know that it's time to go to their car. And all of that is just new, but it works itself out. And then additionally, part of the first day of school is opportunity maybe to walk your child to class, what that is going to look like, and what those times are going to be. It is going to look different, but we are going to publish that schedule as well so that you'll know what those times are, so you can have some comfort level with that. Again, there will be our guidelines in place for being on our campus. So we'll make sure and communicate those as well. And then you may be wondering, what about breakfast and lunch? Breakfast and lunch will begin being served on Monday, October 5th, and that information will be sent in the Friday update. In fact, parents will be able to purchase their meals in advance through a system called RevTrack. We've had it in the past, but this year you're going to see new communication on that and how to make that work for your family. And breakfast and lunch will be available, and that information will be sent in the Friday update. So again, you'll have communication tomorrow, you'll have it Friday, and then it will be available on the website as well, so that if you have any questions, you can find those answered there. And if for some reason there's a key piece of information you're not seeing, if it relates to instruction, be sure to reach out to your child's teacher. If it relates to what it looks like for coming back to school, specific questions, then if you know the point of contact, contact them. You can always reach out to our front office, or you might reach out to our campus directors, Brandy Olmstead and Sharetta Mays, for pre-K 5 and 6-12, and they can answer your question or get you pointed in the right direction. All right, so now I want to take a moment to answer some frequently asked questions. And we're nearing the end of our virtual town hall this evening. So thank you for, again, joining for this. And if you're watching it in repeat, thank you for taking the time. So parents might be asking, what if I want for my student to change from in-person to online or vice versa? So the survey you just completed, that choice for in-person or online is in place through the fall semester. That will take us all the way to January. So no further action is necessary on your part. If you have not completed the survey, then you are currently scheduled to be online. If that is not the selection you want, you will need to communicate that with us. But the survey is closed, so you'll have to reach out to us so that we can make that change for you. But if you didn't complete the survey, you're currently in the online experience. And I know that some families were waiting on this information to make a determination. And so that was communicated. If this has changed your mind from one direction to the other, you still have a moment to make that change. So please communicate with us tonight or tomorrow. We'll be responding in the next 24 to 48 hours. But if this has changed your perspective on what you want to do, then be sure to alert us of that change and give us a little time to work on that for you. But if you would like to change from online to in-person for the second 9 weeks, so let's say you've chosen online, you want to do online through the remainder of this first quarter, but you would like your student to go in person. So you want a few more weeks online, but then starting October 26th, you're ready for them to go in person. You, as an online survey respondent, will receive a new choice survey on October 12th. So this will go only to the parents who are currently online. And in that survey, you can either do nothing and you'll stay online, or you can indicate that you want to be in person, and then you can come back in person on the 26th. Keep in mind, you may change from in person to online at any time, but you must remain online through the semester. So if you move from in-person to online, you're welcome to do that anytime. Just communicate that change with us, but then you have to remain online through the semester. All right, next one. If I'm choosing in-person, what do I do with my VT-issued device? So if you were issued a device from Village Tech for grades pre-K through 7, bring your devices next week, and you'll turn those in to your teacher on the first day you're in class. Grades 8 through 12 will continue using their VT-issued devices, whether they're online or in person. So if you are choosing in person and coming back, be sure to bring the device with you. You'll turn it in. We'll be able to make those available in different ways. You may be wondering what's going on with the 200 Chromebooks that we've ordered through Operation Connectivity. We too are wondering what's going on with the 200 Chromebooks. No, I make light. It's actually an incredible opportunity for schools to get a reduced rate on devices and to try to circumvent some of the supply chain issues. But you may or may not realize that one of the challenges of this pandemic, particularly in economies that are highly developed, is supply chain issues. We have people who are out of work. We have industries that are shutting down. Things that we are used to taking 24 hours are not taking 24 hours. And as a result, there are back orders on manufacturing, there are back orders on supply chain management and movement. So we have 200 computers that are coming. We know that 100 of them are shipping at the end of November, and the other 100, we have not been given a time frame on it. So we do have an additional 200 computers coming. That will be great for our campus. We'll be excited when they're here. But in the meantime, we have no control over their arrival. We've worked to try to find other ways to circumvent those timelines and see if we could find different avenues. But at this time, those are the 200 we know are on the way. And then next question, if my child is in quarantine, can they participate in the virtual learning? Of course they can. So should your child go home, and I'll talk about what that looks like in the next question, but your child can continue to participate in the VT Virtual Tour. Just go to the VT Virtual Tour page on the website and follow the online schedule. Now, obviously, if your child is seriously ill and needs to recover and needs to rest, this is not saying that they need to be participating in the online experience. But maybe they're home and they're feeling perfectly fine, or they're just a little bit under the weather and they don't want to have to make up work later, then they are more than welcome. This is the reason we designed this year the way we did. One of the options we had was to build in these long breaks so that we could recapture days should school have to close down. Instead, we've done our best to create an environment where students can either be in person or online and the learning just continues. It just keeps happening. That way we can maintain one consistent schedule throughout the year. Yes, online looks a little different than in person in terms of timing, but it's basically the same school day. And that was intentional for us so that we could continue with the calendar that was the 4-day week that was established and not have these longer breaks throughout the year. All right. If suspected of COVID-19, how long will my child have to quarantine? Per TEA guidelines, 14 days is the requirement. Or they can obtain a medical professional's note clearing the individual for return based on an alternative diagnosis, or obtain an acute infection test that comes back negative for COVID-19. There is an incredible resource in our community called GoGetTested.com. And essentially, this is tied to what this company saw in other countries that were making use of effective testing procedures and allowing places to be open while continuing to implement common sense measures. And so on this GoGetTested.com, if your child is suspected, you have this link. We'll recommend this link. You can obviously go wherever you'd like, but this is a way that you can, through a simple web interface, schedule a test. It schedules instantaneously for a convenient time. You go, it's a drive-through test, and then you'll know your results. I did fail to mention also our current testing that's here this week. They will be back. So we're going to have them return approximately every month so that your family, our students, our staff can go through and get tested. It is voluntary. There's not a requirement for that, but it is an opportunity for families to do that if they'd like to, which will again just continue to help with our collective efforts to be in school and in person with one another. All right. So then what's the criteria for my child to return? Should they test positive? So again, according to the best guidelines we have at this time, it's these three things work together, the ones that are italicized: 24 hours with no fever, and symptoms improved, and 10 days have passed since symptoms first appeared. Those three things must all be true to come back to school. Or, like before, a test that indicates it's negative, or a doctor's note indicating an alternative diagnosis. So I'm going to switch back over. Those are all of the questions for us this evening. I hope that you've been making use of the chat and putting your questions in the chat. I've seen a lot of questions popping up. Again, make sure it's in there. It's okay if it's a repeat question. If you didn't see it from someone else, we'll make sure and get it captured. And then what we're going to do is make sure that the information that is going out either answers these questions, or we point people towards the answer to these questions and get that provided over the rest and remainder of this week. So thank you for getting those questions out there to us, and thank you for joining. I want to share two things to close us out here. The first is I want to thank, I've used this, so I've honored him each time with it, but 7th grade teacher Joe Thompson, we were talking about the return to school work, and we did a reflective protocol called I Like, I Wish, I Wonder. And we're talking about preparing for students returning. And he said, he quoted from The Lord of the Rings. If you don't know The Lord of the Rings, it's a story about a hobbit a small hobbit who finds himself in the biggest adventure of his life. He doesn't feel equipped for the task. He doesn't feel like he's the person for the job. And yet he has this guide, this mentor, this sage, like any great hero's journey. And his name is a wizard whose name is Gandalf. And they're really living in dark times. There is an evil in the world of Middle Earth that comes from a place called Mordor. Yes, I do like Lord of the Rings. I know a little bit about it. But in this moment, Frodo, the Hobbit, turns to Gandalf and says, he didn't say actually. I don't think that Tolkien would have written it that way. That's kind of a colloquialism today. But he said, I wish this need not have happened in my time. And Gandalf says, so do I, and so do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. This has been an incredibly trying time, and I realize it's hit every family in different ways, whether it's from direct loss or fighting through illness or just general fear and stress and anxiety. Or even I know people who feel like things haven't been that bad and now they're feeling guilty for it. Or you have job loss. We continue to talk about the political climate we find ourselves in is very divisive. And additionally, while a cause whose time has come for racial justice and anti-racism to be at the forefront of our conversation, it is also a stirring within our collective national souls and conscience that is unsettling for many, and rightfully so. That's the type of thing that is unsettling. And this is in a wealthy country. As a former geography teacher, we won't even talk about the impact this has had in less developed countries, where the needs are far more physical and less so mental. We have these psychological demands, whereas other places have tremendous physical demands. And so, within this, it's easy to go to a negative place. But I think Gandalf's wisdom is great for me. It's great for all of us to remember that we don't get to choose the circumstances around us, but we do get to choose our response to them. We get to choose how we show up in the world. And that's not always easy, especially in the face of adversity, especially in the face of challenge. And I appreciate parents you humoring this teacher's heart, because this is core to why I'm in education, right? Is working with parents and students to see us move towards a more hopeful future. And I'm really grateful for the work that we get to do together. And it leaves me with a final quote about our hope in the future, and that's from Paulo Freire, a great educational thinker, whether that's his official title or not. It's what I know him for and what he's often known for. And he says this: knowledge emerges only through invention and reinvention, through the restless, impatient, continuing, hopeful inquiry human beings pursue in the world, with the world, and with each other. This churning that we've been in can create these opportunities for invention and reinvention, that we remain restless and impatient with our transformations and learning as human beings. But all of that points us to something that is near and dear to my heart, to Village Tech, and that is hopeful inquiry. Right? This is the nature of design. This is the nature of kids learning who they are, learning things that last, and learning they belong, is that regardless of today's circumstances, they have a hopeful inquiry towards the future, an ability to ask great questions, to engage with the people around them, to know who they are on the inside, and then work to learn about the character of others, and work to learn about how to be problem solvers and solution finders and wave makers and way makers in the world around them. And that's a big dream. And I'm getting on a soapbox now on a Tuesday night, but that's a big dream, and it's a big dream for all of us. And even though COVID means no, that's kind of an internal Village Tech joke for us. We say to each other, COVID means no. Even though COVID has meant we've had to prune some things, we've had to step back from some things, we've had to take a pause and reflect and do that, it has not changed our core purpose and mission and vision for kids, so that they can be designers and leaders who are character-driven, challenge-ready, and community-focused. It looks a lot different right now than maybe we thought it would. but it doesn't change what we're after. So thank you for indulging my soapbox. You can take the teacher out of the classroom. You cannot take the classroom out of the teacher. I hope you got some great information this evening. I know there's plenty of questions. I know this does not answer every detail, but there are details that are there to be answered. And again, please make sure you are getting communication and the lines of communication are open, and we will all continue to work towards October 5th, grace and patience for all of us. I think everybody's showing up each day, giving their best, doing the best they can with what is in front of us, and I am excited to see those students on the 5th. I'm also excited to see our online students continuing to learn through that environment, for us to continue to be this pre-K-12 village. Thank you for this time on a Tuesday evening. I'm going to leave this on for just a moment so that if Ben has any last chats that he needs to grab the questions to, but otherwise, this marks the end of our second VT Virtual Town Hall. It's been an honor spending this evening with you in this environment. Look forward to when we get back to doing something like this in person. Thank you so much.